Hey guys, welcome back to the Friday Vlog, where we discuss activity that goes on here with the BuzzWeaver channel. That includes things like current events, headlines that are in the news, pop culture, social media, technology, and items of interest that come up during the week that allow us to have a little bit of a dialogue. If this is your first time here to the channel, welcome. If you are on New Tech and a YouTube subscriber, I want to thank all of you guys for your continued support. So I'm going to go ahead and forego getting Call of Duty Vanguard as of this week. The beta, or the early access for those who purchased the game on PC, would be starting today as of September the 15th. But I'm going to go ahead and just hold off because this weekend we'll be able to play the open beta for everyone without having to make a purchase. So I'm just going to wait till then. I'm not in any big rush for Call of Duty Vanguard as of right now because, of course, my focus as a Battlefield veteran is going to be on Battlefield 2042, and that beta will happen next week. So I'll definitely be covering that for sure. So for right now, I'll just go ahead and maybe get some capture over the weekend for Call of Duty and kind of give an assessment and overview of what I think. But I'll probably just wait till it goes on sale, perhaps during the holidays, or even once it gets to the new Warzone that's going to be released, and they will probably discount the game at that point. So I'm looking forward to giving you some Call of Duty Vanguard input, as well as very much looking forward to Battlefield 2042.
From the Associated Press, California Governor Gavin Newsom beats back GOP-led recall. California Governor Gavin Newsom on Tuesday emphatically defeated a recall aimed at kicking him out of office early, a contest the Democrat framed as part of a national battle for his party's values in the face of the C virus pandemic and continued threats from Trumpism. Of course, they always have to include something involving President Trump when the Democrats have the most minuscule and innocuous victory, which is what this was, because California is a very blue state. So the idea that there could be any sort of Republican influence is a bit silly. But of course, there were over 46 different candidates that could have potentially taken over. And if you recall back in, I think it was 2001 or 2002, during the California recall then, that's how Arnold Schwarzenegger became the governor of California. And what's interesting about this was that the voting ended at 8 p.m. Pacific time, or 11 o'clock Eastern time here. And by 11:50 my time, or 8:50 their time, they already had the results. It was just that quick, that fast. I mean, in California, they do a lot of mail-in ballots because of the distance that people have to drive, or the lines and that sort of thing. But they do really enjoy their mail-in ballots in California because they would, they prefer that Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstake style of voting, kind of, on demand. If it were up to the Democrats, they would probably have voting by app if they could get away with such a thing. And of course, they're still trying to pass some of the voting laws, as they call them. But in reality, what they're trying to do is pass laws that include some of the concessions that were made as a result of the pandemic, as well as the rule changes in 2019 that were included to make it less secure to vote by mail-in ballot. But I am not anticipating a pandemic in 2022 or 2024. So this was an interesting exercise, I think, for California to kind of get a barometer, kind of a litmus test to see how all that's going to unfold. Now, the discussion that's being tossed around is that from individuals that I know from California, they were telling me, everyone they knew said that they wanted to recall Gavin Newsom. But the thing is, apparently, because President Biden and then Kamala Harris and then the media, or the establishment, I should say, said that, well, if you recall Gavin Newsom, you're going to get Larry Elder, and he's a Trump supporter. So there's your Trumpism, right? You're going to get a Trump supporting governor. And it's difficult to say whether or not that was, that had anything to do with it. But as you can see here from CNN Politics, Larry Elder baselessly raises possibility of election shenanigans in California. Because, of course, we're going back to the same arguments that I keep reminding those who are concerned about the election. Yes, it was brutal to see what happened because, as I mentioned, in 2019, there was rule changes made And in Pennsylvania, they had to get never-Trumper Republicans to help them pass a lot of that law, which was adopted and recognized by other states, as well as the fact that the pandemic came along, which provided even more concessions for individuals to be able to vote by mail or, loosely be able to vote, and or dispersals, as it were, of mail-in ballots to registered voters. So it's kind of this, again, like I always say, the Publishers Clearinghouse style of sending out mail-in ballots, mail-in ballots by demand, as it were. But the media likes to use two kinds of phrases. They like to use baselessly, and they also like to use without evidence. So you'll see something like President Trump says without evidence, or Trump supporters say without evidence. And then here we see Larry Elder baselessly raises possibility of election shenanigans in California. I'm trying to convince as many people as possible that you have to stay away from that sort of phraseology, fraud and so forth. There is fraud in every election. What happened was rules were changed, concessions were made, the pandemic came along, and even more concessions were made. So basically what happened was the Democrats, working alongside the election officials as well as politicians, to include the never-Trumpers, were able to change the law to make it far more easy for people to vote by mail, making it less secure. And that was really your problem. The whole idea of fraud always exists. Of course, part of the concession was the fact that judges had more leeway to decide whether or not they wanted to investigate any of the fraud. So basically the judges could say, well, is it 300? Is it 500? Is it 1,000? And is it really going to make any difference? Do I want to tie up my court? Do I want to tie up my people? Do I want to get involved in all this, considering I'm an elected judge? Do I want to get involved? Do I want to get involved in this political wrangling? Although it is their job to make sure that our laws are enforced. But suffice to say, they were given a great deal of concession, and so they weren't going to pursue a lot of the fraud. Although there is a lot of the audits, that's very interesting. But nonetheless, as we can see here, the establishment said, well, if Gavin Newsom is recalled, you're going to get Larry Elder. Do you really want Larry Elder? Do you really want a Trump supporter as your governor of California? So they're going to continually use the boogeyman of Trumpism, the boogeyman of Orange Man Bad. It's always going to be their leveraging point. And sadly, that's what we went through. So it would appear that the people of California, not everybody in California, because there's plenty of Republicans there too, but I think they all left, or most of them have. But as we can see here, apparently the people want to remain in the mediocrity. They want to remain in the absurd, ridiculous Schadenfreude style, as well as Stockholm syndrome. You got all the different psychological factors there. So spike in shoplifting, blame on California Prop 47's reduced penalties. We've talked about this here on the channel. You see here, anything below 950 keeps the crime a misdemeanor and likely means that the thieves face no pursuit and no punishment, say retailers and law enforcement officials. Large retailers, including Safeway, Target, Rite Aid, and CVS pharmacies, say shoplifting increased at least 15%, and in some cases doubled since voters approved Proposition 47, and in the possibility of charging shoplifters as a felony with the potential for a prison sentence. So you guys have probably seen plenty of the videos of the guy riding his bike through the CVS and just picking up all kinds of materials and just walking on out. And you can see here this retailer says that it's not uncommon for people to come into his store, his Hobbytown USA, and shoplift drones and other remote control toys and things that he has in there. And they'll pick up $800 worth of units and just grab it and run out the door. And of course, we covered this here on the channel too. Beats going to work. San Francisco rolls out program to pay people $300 a month not to shoot each other in a bid to curb gun violence in woke city where crime is basically legal. So here you have it. I mean, as I said, the people of California kind of remind me a lot of the Europeans in that they perceive themselves to be sophisticated when in reality they're just domesticated. And we see this quite often. It was really kind of telling to see individuals say on Twitter, for example, well, I trust the experts. I trust the government, which is interesting because that used to not be what the left would normally say. And normally they would be, fight the power. They were always free speech, anti-censorship, and now they're all on board with all of it. So it was really kind of an interesting contrast to see some of these individuals say, well, we need to listen to the experts, or we need to listen to the government, and especially Antifa. The anti-fascists are now out there telling people, show us your card. I mean, go get your vaccine card. Antifa, of all people. So here in California, they appear to be quite all set for their Stockholm syndrome governance. You know, their Schadenfreude, punishing the rich kind of ideology and philosophy, although a lot of people are leaving. The other point that was made by Tim Pool, he mentioned that during the election, there were 6 million Republicans who voted for President Trump in California. But in this election, let's see, there was only 3 million who voted yes. So what Tim was saying was, well, what happened? Did 3 million people, did 3 million Republicans leave California, or what exactly happened there? But yeah, it was 6 million that ended up voting for President Trump in California, which obviously would have been, way more than the 5 million that Gavin Newsom got here. But it only needed to get to 50% to remove him. But nonetheless, people are leaving California. That's for absolutely sure. And in addition, of course, some of you guys probably are aware as well, San Francisco has a poop patrol to deal with this feces problem, and workers make more than $184,000 a year in salary and benefits. I'm willing to bet that most of those benefits are them probably getting $1,000 at their own shopping centers to grab whatever they want. But I guess if you're cleaning up the streets of poop, you should be able to be very well compensated for. And then shifting gears here to Norm McDonald, who I really enjoy, SNL comedian, obviously suffered from cancer. He kept it very private, so I was very, very sad to hear this. I've always been a big fan of Norm McDonald, and as I understood it from a Tim IRL podcast, he had stirred up a bit of a controversy when it came to the critical race theory. I can't repeat what he said, but what he said was accurate and true, defining critical race theory, and obviously, the station and the podcasters or whomever was doing the live feed at the time were like, oh, you can't say that. What in the world are you saying? And he was correct about what he said, and it wasn't anything insensitive. He was just kind of, saying, well, here's what critical race theory really is, and he gave a very good analogy to illustrate what critical race theory actually was. So that's what I have for you guys this week.
All right, guys, so that's going to wrap it up for this Friday vlog. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the comments. Below this video, you can find the various links to my social media where I do daily posts if you want to see what's going on with me throughout the week. And of course, here on YouTube, that would be the channel icon appearing right there on the screen to subscribe. You click on that, which will allow you to subscribe, along with notifications letting you know if you want to know when there is content here on the channel, to include those video shorts that I do enjoy posting, which you will see more of with Call of Duty and Battlefield 2042. And I will see all you guys right there behind that camera next week.